Previously on AFTN.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, that's it.
Oh,
That's
there
the
you
term.
go. Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking of something like that. I kind of blanked on that.
Which player didn't have a heart?
Okay, so
Yeah.
who was the who was the lion? Who was the tiger? Who was
He's got
the
a
bear?
ponytail and he's blonde. Oh. Well, hello to everyone out there in Cascadia world. This is the AFTN soccer show. There's still time, broadcasting live from the CITR FM studios at the University of British Columbia on the unceded Musqueam territory. If you're listening to this on the podcast, this is episode 291. My name is Steve Pander.
And I'm Michael McCall, calling all the way in from the Oregon coast.
Yeah, so I'm in Upper Cascadia, you're in Lower Cascadia, and our third compatriot is stuck somewhere in Middle Cascadia.
Yes. This was not how we saw the show going tonight.
No.
But Zach's not made it back to Canada yet.
Hopefully he's able to call in for later, but there's little chance of that happening, but we'll see what happens. But let's get right into it. I say let's just jump into it the way the Whitecaps jumped into the game yesterday. What a win for them. I didn't see it coming. We were talking about last week, we thought, this is an affordable loss. They can lose this, no problem. Michael, what did you see down there?
I was stunned. I don't think many people really fancied the Caps to go there and even get a point, never mind 3 points. I was kind of expecting a team that would get put out to maybe bunker, try and keep your big guns on the bench, maybe bring them on in the last third of the match to try and either maybe sneak an equaliser if they were behind or to sneak a winner. But they went for it from the start, and it was an entertaining game. Some of the more recent Cascadia games, not just for the Caps, but with also Sounders and Timbers, they've not been that exciting, but this was end-to-end stuff.
Well, especially in the first half, where usually the Whitecaps kind of sit back and let things happen and everything, but this time they went for it. It's something I wish they would do regularly, like especially on the road. When they're expecting you to sit back, why not just go for it and go for chances? And while they did concede a lot of possession, obviously all the possession, because if you look at the MLS site where you see possession by 5 minutes, I don't think the Whitecaps had one 5-minute interval where they had more possession.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 70-30 or something. I can't remember exactly what the stats were. But
yeah, 69-31, so basically 70-30, and it certainly felt that. Because, I'm saying it was an end-to-end game. Yeah, first half was end-to-end. Second half, it was just all in the one end.
It was slanted one way. Like I was talking to somebody about they parked the bus. You know how the wheels on the bus go round and round? There was no round and round on this one. This bus was parked, and they weren't moving it at all.
Yeah, but, they did well. It begs the question, where did it come from? We've talked before. We know this is a talented team if all the starters or all the top guys play to their max. But getting them to do that week in, week out is an almost impossible task. Was this just one of those games where everyone played to their limits?
I think they had a general a plan. I don't think it's no accident that they were really going after them. But I think they really connected well, and everything went right for them for once. People talked about after the game, did they kind of luck out on this one? But there's been games. We obviously Robbo keeps reminding us about the Colorado game where they dominated that game, had so many chances but couldn't put it past. This is the opposite where Portland had the chances and Vancouver couldn't. I mean, they couldn't get past Vancouver, and Vancouver was able to capitalize on their few chances. I don't think this is indicative of what you're going to see down the road, like for the rest of the season. But because I don't think they can afford that, I don't think you can sit back for a whole half and soak that much pressure up.
I don't think my heart could afford it because, like, sitting there for that game and the fans as well in the stands, that was a long second half.
Yeah,
and
if
a team is not going to do that week in, week out.
If you talk about, like, you clench your butt when you're like in under stress like that. There were a lot of like tight butts last night, yesterday.
Oh boy, yeah.
Where do you see this win ranking in terms of the best games or performances of the season? Is it right up there just because it's against the rival, it's on the road, and nobody was expecting anything from this game? Well, at least us, nobody except the players, obviously.
Yeah, I think for me it is right up there. I asked a couple of the guys after the game if they felt that way, and Kai Kamara didn't think so, Robbo didn't think so, and yeah, they keep coming back to like Colorado, Houston, but for the defensive showing and being under so much pressure and not buckling, considering what we've seen in recent weeks defensively from this team, I have it as the best game of the season so far. Hopefully there's better ones to come, but it's right up there for me. Definitely top three. I would probably have it number one. I don't know about you.
I think definitely top three. I think because of the circumstances, the way they were able to just absorb all that pressure, and I agree with you there that it's definitely one up there. I have to go back. I didn't really think about it too much. It's because so many games melded together. It's hard to pick up a certain game here and there. There was a game where they dominated completely and really took up the scoreline. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, I think definitely there. And the great thing is, with that win, they've basically balanced the points they've lost on the road at home so far with the points they've gained on the road. So I think they've dropped 14 points at home, and now they picked up 14 points on the road. So it's kind of balanced now, because we talked about always, if you're undefeated at home, if you could pick up a few points on the road, then you're basically in the playoffs.
Yeah, it seems to have been the most road wins in a season since 2014, and we've still got some games to go. There's 10 games left. A lot of them are at home. It's 5 or 6 that's at home. I think it's the 6, and they need to get their home form back to what it should be, and what teams that win championships, teams that make the playoffs, do well at home. It's great doing this on the road, but you have to take your points at home. Anything we pick up on the road is basically just gravy now.
A quick breakdown. Let's do a quick breakdown of the main talking points before, obviously, going into the game. First of all, the lineup. It wasn't really a major surprise because we were expecting some of the players like Davies and everybody to be injured. Obviously, we knew Daniel Henry broke his wrist because of what happened after that previous game. But were you surprised at how many first choices got the nod? I think you pretty much called the team, but Teixeira and Kamara kind of surprised all of us that they were going to, especially Kamara, considering he came off and he was really dead tired at the end of the last game. A lot of people thought Hurtado might get the start, especially being in Oregon. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought Hurtado would, being the Oregon guy, which of course was mentioned a lot. I thought he would get the start, and I thought he had maybe deserved it as well because he has done so well the last 2 games. To share a start and also surprised me because I thought you would want to keep him fresh for Wednesday. When I was trying to put together what I thought the team would be, I'd pretty much had it as it was, but that sort of left-right midfield, Shea was obviously going to take one of the positions, but they're down to the bare bones, so it was trying to work out, would they maybe play Felipe out wide, or would they play Mosquera out wide and have Reyna start? But you want to keep Reyna for Wednesday. Kamara was a surprise. He went 72 minutes, and I hope he isn't as tired as he said he was after the game, because he said he was exhausted. But a bit of a surprise. I think it worked, and it's something we've talked about before. Don't make wholesale changes. Don't change 9, 10, 11 players. do this. Have some of the first team guys with the second stringers. Then you get a better performance out of them.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously let's talk about Kai right now. He grabbed his 10th goal of the season in the 14th minute. It was I think a Waston sent in the ball, which you don't expect that to be that combination to work. But fantastic flick header. But forget the header. What was the goalkeeper thinking? Obviously, Kamara saw him coming out, and that's why he did the header like that. Or else, I don't think he would even attempt that on the net.
Yeah, afterwards, Kamara had said he basically saw in his peripheral vision that Attinella had come out. And he said he had heard the keeper and the defender talking, so he knew he was coming out. So he knew if he just nudged the ball, then it was going to be an open goal and he just had to get it on target. But I had no idea what he was thinking. I mean, if you come out like that, you have to at least try and get to the ball. He was nowhere even near it. There was no way he could even have challenged Kamara. Whether he thought it was going to go deep and go over Kamara's head, I don't know. But the preview guys were talking about what a good season he'd been having, and he was like a real solid core for Portland. That's probably been his worst mistake of the year, and it really, really cost his team.
Yeah, and then you were mentioning off air that he kind of joked that he never thought he'd be getting an assist from Waston. But it was a nice ball in there. Teixeira had a great chance in the 20th minute. What did you think of that? Like, he obviously could have got it, but it just obviously you were thinking that you don't want to miss up these opportunities because you don't know how many you're going to get during the game.
I mean, that was a great opportunity. It was a fast break. I think it was Nico that played the ball to the bug. He wanted it on his proper foot, though. And top footballers, they can't do that. It's like you've got to take your opportunity when it comes. You've got to be two-footed. But cutting inside, it made the whole break fall down. He was closed down, couldn't get the shot off. I thought that was going to come back to haunt them. Thankfully, it didn't. But he needs to be more confident and just shoot with his other foot in a situation like that.
Yeah, definitely. And then obviously the 5 minutes. I actually had the tweet ready where I had a meme like about 5 minutes. But I was about to send it, and then the penalty happened. Where obviously it was like I think Waston knew it was a penalty. He didn't even argue or anything like that. But it looked like that was it was going to happen again. Where in the final 5 minutes it was going to go against the Whitecaps, but. Talk about the penalty and what you thought leading up to that one and what happened afterwards.
I mean, when it happened, they had done so well, it looked like they would probably hold on. It was a clear penalty. I mean, there's no denying it. Waston went right through him. But, I mean, Valeri had flicked the ball away. So I think Waston, even if he still had the ball, would have gone through him. But, I mean, Valeri did well to flick the ball away. And then stepping up to take it, you would put money on Valeri burying that. But firing it wide afterwards, Marinovic was kind of joking that he thought he'd psyched him out because he knew he always went that way.
Well, Marinovic is going to take credit because even though he went the wrong way, he's going to think that But
I mean, to miss a penalty like that in a big game like that is just so not like Valeri. But
I believe on the
huge let off.
Yeah, I believe on the broadcast they said it was only his second miss all time at the spot, if I'm not mistaken, possibly second or third since he came into MLS. But then it was basically that last 5 minutes. It was basically a 2-goal swing because instead of going 1-1, it became 2-0 because Teixeira, making up for the miss in the 20th minute, finished with a header of all things from Breakin.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, we've joked and we've been annoyed by the fact of how many crosses come into the box onto Teixeira's head. Smallest guy in MLS, we seem to pump the balls into him when you've got Kai Kamara there. But in this case, it worked. It was a great break. And like Shea's cross, we know that's what he can do. We know he has the skill. We've seen him score great goals. We've seen him do a couple of assists recently as well. If he could just do this on a consistent basis, Brek Shea would be worth the money that well, maybe not all of it, but he would be definitely worth a high salary.
No, well, some people won't. Like as you can see in the intro, I'm not going to give him all the credit, but yeah, for sure. you knew Portland was going to come out blazing in the second half. And,
Yeah.
they had this 15-game unbeaten streak alive. They were constantly going after them. There was that early chance where they just tipped it over the bar off the header. So many scrambles. How was it? Like, I was so under pressure, like at home. How was it in the stadium? And what did you think? Because they just couldn't get it up the field, it seemed like. And when they did, it was just to basically just kick it as far as up so they get a little bit of rest.
Well, yeah, because like in the Providence Park press box, the visiting team are at the end that the Whitecaps were shooting in the second half. We saw very little action up that end. And it was just one-way traffic. It felt like a goal was coming. Everything seemed scrambled. And from that vantage point as well, you could see how tired some of the players were. And I think Robbo did well making the subs when he did to kind of freshen it up. I like to kind of switch a formation to go 5 at the back, really, and kind of soak up the pressure a little bit more. But the downside of that is you then are not getting the ball out because there's nobody to take the ball away. And all they would do is just punt the ball up the pitch, and there was no one there. So then the waves of pressure would just come back in again to them. So not ideal. It was really tense. The fans were getting frustrated from a Portland side as well. So at least when the opposition, or in this case the home fans, are getting frustrated,
It's a good thing.
you know you're doing something right.
Yeah, but then the goal did come. You thought it was going to come out of play, but then it ended up being a penalty. It was a really weird play where they had everybody in the middle there, Boston, Mond, and then Franklin on the right. And they kind of switched up. I don't know which Portland player it was, but he kind of went on the other side of Waston, which Waston followed him, and then Franklin kind of followed him. And that opened up the gap between Franklin and Nowitzki, and Blanco just was able to get in there. Franklin did get a push on him. It wasn't the hard of push, but it was a push. And when you're going that fast down the field or, into the box, any kind of push on that momentum is going to knock you down. The referee really had no choice in this one, right?
Well, see, a lot of the Caps players, and they would say this, but they felt it wasn't a penalty. My first instinct of watching it live was that was a penalty because you see Franklin's arm out. You see it's in the back of Blanco. Blanco's obviously going to go down, as any player would in a situation like that. Franklin, yeah, it was soft, but Franklin cannot put the referee in that position to make that call because you can review it on VAR, but it has to be conclusive that it's not a penalty. And his hand was out, he touched him, so you're making the referee do that call, and I don't think there was a lot of complaint with it.
No, it wasn't just a touch. It was a shove. It was not a heavy shove, but it was a shove. And like I said, when you're running like that, any kind of clip or anything can. I don't think it was a dive for sure. I think he did knock him over. Then you had the Marinovic save on Valeri. That was part of that rough ending where it looked like they were going to maybe give up 2 points, and then you got. It looked like they were just couldn't even get up the field at all. The only person who seemed to have energy was Hurtado and Nowitzki, who I think was a vital sub, massive sub considering how many clearances. They had 53 clearances, 7 of them by Nowitzki, who came on in the 61st minute, and that's huge. I think I felt, and I wasn't even going to look up that stat, but then every time I looked up, Nowitzki was clearing the ball off the far post. It was like 2 or 3 times. Then I looked it up and I saw what he had, and it was just amazing. By the end of the game, they did some excellent time wasting, which I think really went into your wheelhouse there. What did you think about that, getting them over the line and how that worked out?
Well, you have to do that. You've got to have clever game management. Yes, people don't like to watch it, but when it's your team doing it, I've no problems with it. I'd rather that than them to try and play football, give the ball away, get caught up the pitch, and then they let a goal in. There was some injuries going down. Marinovic was going down. He seemed totally fine after the game. So we've got players that are able to do stuff like that. Felipe was getting in and around people as he usually does. And I mean, Chara had a great chance and he went down in the box. He dived in the box. And so Portland were trying to con the referee to get stuff. So why should the Whitecaps not try and con the referee to waste time? But then you see a 7 minutes go up for stoppage time and you think, yeah, it's not really worked. It's kind of backfired a bit because he's just added all this time on.
Yeah, and then they wasted. I think they wasted plenty of time in injury time too. And there was that moment. I don't know. Maybe did Robbo talk about this? Like what the referee came over to? Was he complaining and he just the referee had to talk to him to calm him down or something? What was going on in that injury time when the referee came over to Robbo? No, they never really mentioned it too much on the TV.
Yeah, Robbo, as usual, was kind of mouthing off to the fourth official.
Oh, okay.
About what was a penalty, what wasn't a penalty. So then he was talking so much that the referee then has to go and speak to him, which then just wastes more time.
Exactly, and that kind of worked out there.
Yeah.
Final thoughts for now. We're obviously going to go to break soon. You were there, obviously in the locker room or outside the locker room. What does this win do to the mentality? Like, well, how were they, and their belief not only going to TFC but then their last 10 matches in MLS?
Well, the mood in the locker room was joyous beyond belief. Having been down to Seattle a couple of weeks ago where it was just like a morgue in that locker room, and we were kept waiting for 50 minutes to speak to Robbo because he was like tearing a chunk off them. This was just tremendous. And they were playing Eminem, Slim Shady. They were all singing along to My Name Is. They were going to go for Voodoo Donuts. Robbo said he was buying.
Yeah, I saw that tweet from a number of people.
So it was really upbeat, and I think this gives them the confidence to know that they can go to these tough places, and they've got some tough road games coming up. They've got to go to LAFC, penultimate game of the season. LAFC's falling down the table. That could be massive. Going to Toronto now on Wednesday. This is the ideal preparation for that because it gives them the confidence that they can go and they can defend and they can perform and they can get wins. So it should be massive, but it's only going to be massive if they now follow on and do something with it.
Did we overlook the previous New York City FC away game? Maybe that was somewhat of a turning point. I know it was a 2-2 draw, but again, the game where you weren't expecting much, and they were able to pull the 2-2 draw, and the fact that they came back and not came back, but they were with down 10 men and tied TFC 2-2, and it was on a fluke last minute goal. Do you think that those two games kind of propelled them into this game?
Possibly. I mean, we maybe do underestimate what they did in New York because that was a big point that they got, all things considered. And I mean, even the TFC game, yeah, it's disappointing that they didn't get the win in the end. But to come away from that, playing the way they did in the second half, to still be in the tie, I mean, these are the kind of things that maybe we do underestimate the battling quality of this team. And Robbo's been making a point recently, feels like almost every interview, where he says, do not question my team's heart, do not question their effort. Although, interestingly, I do feel he's saying that after questioning their heart and effort in Seattle. But that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll hear from Robbo and I think Stefan Marinovic and the Portland coach after these messages.
Hey, it's Stefan Marinovic, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Second part, let's talk a little bit more about the Caps. But before we do that, let's hear what the coaches had to say. First, we're going to talk to Portland's Gio Sarvesi and then obviously Robbo as well. So here are their two coaches.
It's going down.
It's going down.
I'm yelling timber. You better move.
You better move.
You better dance.
Giggity.
Let's make a night.
Yeah, bitch,
You won't remember. I'll be the one.
I'll be the one.
You won't forget.
Oh, I thought that first of all we started the match the way we wanted. We opened the match, so that's why we played with the diamond, and we went with something different, a more attacking-minded team. And in the first half, maybe some of our mistakes, they were able to capitalize. They scored the 2 goals. And I thought the second half was all us. We gave everything that we had in the second half. We scored the goal. We couldn't get back into it. Credit to Vancouver. They came with a plan. they executed it. They were able to get the goals that they needed in the first half, taking advantage of our mistakes. And in the second half, they defended. They defended everything that we throw at them, which it was a lot, and they got an important victory.
Well, one thing you can't do with those boys in there is question their hearts. I think we saw two different halves of football today. First of all, I'll say they're a terrific team, Portland. They got excellent players. We know that. We knew they're unbeaten in 14 games, so we knew it was going to be a challenge with the rotation I had with the squad as well. The first half, the boys handled themselves immaculately. We caught them in transition 2 or 3 times. We scored 2 good goals, but we knew the second half was going to be totally different. Gio made some adjustments, as he's done most games this year, and credit to him for that, which caused us problems. But we just don't go under. We just hang in there when we're bending, but we don't break. And even in the last minute, we after Wednesday night, I think it was. I've lost my days now. Conceding in the last minute was tough, but we didn't do that today. So the players deserve a load of credit in there. And it's great when you play against your rivals. The atmosphere is unbelievable, the intensity is unbelievable, and the performance was unbelievable.
With the games coming thick and fast, does this feel like the best win that you've had this season?
Possibly. I think the supporters might say that it is, but when we go to Columbus and we win, and we go to Houston and we get good results like that, it's always good. We've had some nice performances at home. Any win is good, whether you win 1-0. I know people might say it's not entertaining and attacking and all that nonsense, but I don't buy into that. I keep getting told is it about possession? Apparently when you have lots of possession and you don't get a result, it's about results. When you don't have much possession, you get a result, then it's about possession. So listen, apples and oranges.
A lot of the goals this year you can maybe pinpoint to bad defending. Today though, it seemed like every single man played the defensive part, and it was a really strong defensive team effort.
It was. Listen, and obviously they had a couple of penalties, and I was trying to speak to Mr. Marufo and ask him what was the difference between one and the other, and so we had a good conversation with that. Sometimes you get a little bit of luck. We needed a little bit of luck today. You're not going to win here, or whenever you go away from home. If you don't get a little bit of luck, you won't get a result. We've not got luck at certain times this year, but we have got luck at other times. And today we got a little bit of luck, but we played really well. First half we were terrific.
What has Kamara meant to you guys this season?
Who, sorry?
Kai.
Yeah, I love Kai to bits, and he's had a number of clubs in the league, and he's played in Europe, and until you get to work with him, you don't actually know what he's like as a person. Get to know him as a person. He's a very colourful character. He enjoys his dancing, usually sometimes bare naked and stuff like that. But you have to get to know him, and I've certainly got to know him. And he doesn't agree with my decisions sometimes, but tough. I'm the manager, so he respects it. And my job is to get the best out of him. And when he plays like that, he's a platform for the team. And we've got so many young players in and around him. I needed a leader. When Freddie Montero left last year, it was important I got a leader in that sort of role. And he's been phenomenal. He really is a joy to work with.
That was the gaffer, obviously talking about Kai Kamara's kind of like too much information TMI there with Kai Kamara's. You were mentioning that you can't wait for the outtakes on the dancing.
Yeah, because the Caps video everything these days, so that could be interesting.
Yeah,
he is a character. It could be a new section as well for the show, because naked dancing might work better on the radio.
It should, yeah, for sure. And it's, I don't think we have to rate it any like PG or rated R or anything like that.
We do it every week in the studio.
Yeah.
So
obviously the Kai, we talked about Kai. They talked about Kai. It was almost instant when he came over though, because he was talking, relating to the younger players, not just Alfonso, but some of the other younger players, including a couple of draft picks that actually didn't make it to the team. But he was always interacting with the fans, the supporters, and all that stuff. So I think he's been a real positive influence. As long as we don't sign Higuain next year, I think he's definitely going to have another good year next year.
I hope so. He's been a great signing. So many people before the signing were like, oh, you don't want Kamara, he's a cancer in the locker room. Maybe he's just not found the right team.
Yeah.
And now he's found the right team because he seems to be thriving here. He seems to be really happy. He seems to be a good influence on the people. And it's not that the teams, I mean, they've been through a bad patch, and that's often when in the past folk have kind of cited him as being disruptive. He's not been like that. He's been positive. And I mean, I don't know if you saw the video that he kind of, it was filmed as they were coming off the pitch.
Oh, yeah, I saw
him
that,
and
yeah.
Kendall and the players. Basically, they've got this mentality that everything's against them, which of course Robbo likes to instill in them.
And
But
I
it
think
seems to be paying off.
Every team should do that unless you're the top team. Everybody should be going for that. And there's tons of teams in MLS that you can legitimately say that everybody's against them. It was a fantastic team effort. Usually we like to single out players. It's going to be hard a little bit because they were all like almost like, they all melded together in that second half, especially. Who's like one of your standouts or a couple of your standouts here?
Liked Ali Ghazal.
Yeah, a lot of people had that.
Came on at half-time against TFC, put in a great shift for that half. 2 great halves now against Portland. So 3 halves of football. He's been one of the best Whitecaps on the pitch. A career-high 9 tackles from him. And for me right now, Ghazal and Tybert, and a few other folks said this as well, the preview guys said this as well, they're the best DM tandem that we currently have. The problem is, when you're playing 4-4-2, you don't have the luxury of having a 2-man defensive midfield shield. Yeah. They're playing more of a central midfield role. They're not really DMs. So I don't think if we keep 4-4-2 that we can play Tybert and Ghazal and fit in the other offensive pieces that we need to fit in to be creative.
Yeah.
Or if we go with Tybert and Ghazal, we just don't have the creativity.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think they just have to rotate between one and the other. The Robbo's got to figure out which one's the better option. Like, I think if you need a guy like to kind of get under somebody's skin, like a Valeri, for example, normally I would go with Tybert. Obviously, I think Ghazal did a really wicked job on Valeri. His only the goal he scored, obviously it was dangerous, but he really wasn't as dangerous as you expect from a player like that, and he scored only from the penalty spot. So obviously he did a decent job on him. Another player I thought maybe had a misstep here and there, but Aaron Mond. People don't talk about him. You talk about him a lot because you want him to get on the pitch instead of Ali Ghazal, especially at center back. But I thought he did really well, and he partnered really well with Kendall Waston at the back there.
I think Mond and Waston have a really good partnership, and I mean we've talked about it before. I don't know why you put Ghazal in ahead of him when you've got a guy that's a highly rated MLS centre back. It's just been puzzling, and to come into the team cold as well, and to put in the performances that he's put in, I mean that's excellent, and it's great for him. And I mean we'll come later in this part. We'll talk about the new centre back signing that the Whitecaps seem to have made. It kind of maybe looks like Aaron Mond's days here would be numbered, but Jose Aha's injured. You've got Daniel Henry that's now injured, and I guess let's talk about that. Henry broke his wrist, which it appears to be, there's not been any official confirmation, but by what Harjit Jahal tweeted out from training on Friday, he apparently punched a wall after his own goal in TFC and broke his wrist.
Yeah, frustration, obviously. There's passion there, and obviously it was in the heat of the moment that he was very upset. You could tell on the pitch he was so upset when that happened, and after the game they're trying to lift him up and everything because he wouldn't.
Devastated.
Yeah, well, it is kind of a stupid thing to do, but you don't. When you're doing something like that, you're not expecting your wrist to fracture.
No. I think a lot of people, I've probably punched walls or something in the past as well. It's just something you do out of frustration.
Well, I could tell you one. I could tell you one right now that it's still in. I can see the indent in the wall still. It was the first. What year was the Eric Castley Wonder Goal? That was the first year, right? If I'm not mistaken, yeah. So it was right out when Alonso scores to put him up. I actually punched the wall after that. And then seconds later, Hassie scored. So I didn't break my wrist, luckily. But it can happen in frustration, even if you're not a player. It's like if punching a wall is a normal thing, I think. But you can't do it when you're a professional player and there's a chance you're going to break your wrist.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And if he misses game time, I think he would have been rested anyway against Portland. I'm pretty sure he wasn't going to play. So that gives him a couple of extra days to get ready. But that looks like a massive cast that he's got. So, I mean, Robbo said he's in contention.
Well,
but I don't know. Do you risk him?
Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe he'll know not to put his hands up and do like a handball in the box or anything like that with a wrist on. I remember.
What about?
What didn't Kobayashi play with a cast on his hand for a while there?
He did, yeah.
So maybe it can be done by them. Maybe they can figure something out.
Maybe. I mean, the danger is, especially when you're a defender, that you're tussling in the box and you swing your arm, then all of a sudden that makes contact with somebody, and it's a lot more dangerous than a hand just suddenly hitting someone.
Yeah, I think
or
it's
grazing across someone's face.
I think it's more of for him. It's going to be more of a pain threshold. If he can take the pain, if somebody hits it or something like that, then I think he'll be fine. But it's all depending on that. Let's get to the. I was talking about Henry and the back line. The fullbacks against Portland. The starters, they were having a tough time. I thought Franklin, Levi's was a little bit better, but Franklin on that side was just really. It was a tough, like, to see them constantly going after him. They made the substitutions. Obviously, Levi's was hurt. He got fallen on by, I think, Powell, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. And then Franklin, I guess that was a substitute. They took it to Chera. That was a vital sub, like I said in the first part. The clearances he did at that far post was fantastic. What did you think of the substitutions when it happened, and obviously at the end of the game?
I mean, I think it worked out great. You don't really normally expect teams to be making a couple of defensive substitutions, but in a situation like that, it was needs must. Nowinski, as we talked about, was great. De Jong steadied things as well. I did think Brett Levi's had a really good game. He had some great numbers out of it, which I don't have to hand right now, but he put in a really strong showing. And I was saying to Nathan Vanstone, because I was sitting beside him during the first half, this is the kind of game that he needed to maybe get a bit of confidence back.
Yeah. Well,
on the right side, Franklin, like, they were going up the right side of the Caps. They knew that was the weak link. And you had Shea playing out on the right side as well, which I thought was a little bit odd.
Yeah, when I say Levi had a tough time, it's not that it was definitely, they were going after Franklin more, but there were moments where Levi's wasn't sure, and I think it got a little lucky, but I agree with you that he definitely put in a better performance than his previous games, and it looks like a little bit of an upswing for him. The whole defensive effort, obviously, it was completely excellent. You know, even the wingers came back, the fullbacks came back. Kai Kamara was in the box clearing balls out. It's something that we needed to see, because they always talk about individual mistakes, but if you're playing well defensively as a team, you don't need to worry of those individual mistakes.
Yeah, and this was exactly the kind of performance we've been needing for weeks. The defensive play of the midfield has been atrocious, and that's been one of the fundamental reasons for the amount of goals that the team has given up. But to a man, this was a team that put in a strong defensive shift. They had to. But everyone scrambling the ball away, throwing their bodies on the line. This is exactly what we haven't seen this year. And if they can keep doing this when the going gets tough, then they are in with a chance. And you don't want to get carried away after one win, just like you don't want to get carried away after one loss. But the signs are there that they can produce these games. It's just whether they can do it on a consistent enough basis, because that will take a hell of a lot out of any player.
Yeah, and obviously the back line, we praised them quite a bit, but there was a last line of defense, and that was Stefan Marinovic, and he came up big a number of times. For me, he was the man of the match. I know a lot of people gave it to Gazal, but Marinovic, the Valeri save, a couple of saves where he was just like had to rush out to meet the keeper. I mean, the attacker. the way he was able to control the box, because although they cleared the ball, there was a number of times where he had to grab the ball out of the air and everything like that. And then he had to deal, I think, the last 5 or 6 minutes plus injury time with his own injury. Or he was hobbled a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it was time wasting as well. What did you think?
I still think that was time wasting.
Was it? Okay. So what did you think about his performance?
Totally fine after the match.
What did you think of his performance and what he did? It's again, we talked about it before. Brian Rowe came in, put a yeoman's effort in there, but Marinovic is that dynamic keeper that can make that big save that you need.
Yeah, I mean, for me, he's probably man of the match as well. He had a couple of vital stops. He came up big when he needed to. And, I mean, when you're a keeper like that, you've got to be alert the whole game. When you've got so much pressure coming in at you, wave after wave of attack, you just have to be mentally strong. You cannot switch off for a second. And he didn't in this one. My only criticism that I've maybe got of Marinovic, and we saw it in the first half, there's a number of times when he makes a save and he parries the ball right into the danger zone in front of goal. Now, a lot of the time, there's a Whitecap there that can kick the ball away, but that's a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
And he has to get out of that. He has to try and push the ball further away and not just push it right out into the middle of the box. But he wasn't punished this one. That's going to give him confidence. If you think back to the last time the Whitecaps were down there, regular season, they just had to win, maybe even just get a point. I can't remember what it was now, to clinch first in the West. And then Marinovic lets in a bit of a howler. More than made up for it in this one, and that's going to give him a big confidence boost. Not that he needs it, he's a confident guy.
Yeah, and you had a chance to talk to him after the game. So let's play that audio right now. Michael talking to Stefan Marinovic and getting his thoughts on the match.
There's been a lot of goals maybe given up from bad defending this year, but today every one-to-man seemed to do their job defensively, even though you're under the cosh. Is that one of the best defensive efforts you've seen all season from the team?
I'd have to say, I came into the change room at half time and I said quite loud and I congratulated the boys on their I hate the word effort because it sounds so, but like their effort in their defending. Everyone put their body on the line. There was no lunging in, apart from Kendall's pen, but it was all in all a great defensive effort from the boys. Very composed. Looked like we enjoyed the defending part of the game, which I haven't seen in a very long time.
When you're under that pressure and you see a sign go up saying 7 minutes of stoppage time, what goes through your head?
I just thought, come on, ref, come on, bud. Like you've given them a penalty that isn't a penalty, and then you give them 7 minutes. So I was like, oh. He must have heard my interview at the middle of the week when I said when everything goes against us, we play really well. So he decided to put a pen that wasn't a pen and 7 extra minutes on there. So it ended up working out well for us. We would have been extremely peeved if we'd conceded, but we looked stable. I didn't feel like we were going to concede.
You've been with the club for a year now. Where does this win rank?
After, I guess you could say, that little bit of heartbreak last year when we played the last game here of the season and we didn't clinch that top spot, feels good to get a little bit of revenge in the Cascadia Cup for that. Yeah, so that feels good.
So a little bit of afters at the end there.
Sorry?
A little bit of afters at the end. Someone just trying to get in your face a bit.
Yeah, he was just trying to tell me that I wasn't respecting the fans or something like that, and try to push and shove me. So I'm not going to be pushed around by someone who's 5'6". So I'm gonna stand my ground.
What was it like? Can you expand on that a little bit? Was it a supporter that was pushing with Stefan Marinovic, or
no? It was one of the Timbers players, because
okay.
I was like, every Timbers match down there, I always watch at the final whistle.
Yeah,
because there's always a little bit of afters. There's always a little bit of pushing and shoving. So it seemed to go off like nothing was happening, and then all of a sudden I just saw Marinovic tussling. I didn't see who the Timber was, but folk were like getting in between them, and then Stuart Kerr pulled Stefan away. So I thought, something's going on there. So basically the Portland player was accusing Stefan of disrespecting the Timbers fans, I'm guessing he probably gestured towards him at the final whistle.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, we just look at the sizes, 5'6", and we'll figure out which Timber player it was.
Yeah, because that's something else. I don't know if it was on the broadcast or not either. Like at the end of the game, after everything, all the Whitecaps players came over to where the fans are in the corner, and Felipe picked up the corner flag and he's like waving it about and dancing around with the corner flag.
I didn't see that on the broadcast, but it was on Kai Kamara's video that he played at the end. I mean, on online. That he was showing Felipe wave the flag, yeah.
Timbers fans behind the goal were shouting at the Whitecaps players, and Alex Zal just blew one of them a kiss, so it was hilarious.
Well, let's look at other news, obviously, in the Whitecaps world. No additional transfers in the window. They did sign the El Salvadorian center back Roberto Dominguez, but they haven't announced it yet, so I don't know if he was a free agent. They can wait for a bit before they announce it. Maybe they announce it this week. What's your thoughts on that? Obviously, that was somewhere where we didn't expect it, but with injuries now, maybe it might be an ideal signing.
Well, he certainly seems to be a prospect. They're quite high in him. He has signed. They're just finalising all the paperwork, dotting the I's, crossing the T's. It was a bizarre moment this week where part of his contract was leaked on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because someone was complaining about the Whitecaps wanting to know if there was due any solidarity payments to teams, which is a fair enough question to ask, just so they know exactly what they're getting into. But to leak a contract, I've never seen anything like that. Hasn't derailed the deal.
Yeah.
He is signing. He's just young guy, 21, and he's already made a number of appearances for El Salvador.
The national team, right? I saw that.
Senior. So, I mean, it looks like good signing, but I mean, you don't know with these guys playing in these leagues until you see them at the higher level.
Yeah,
Anthony Blundell's a good example of lighting it up in the Venezuelan league right now, not lighting it up in MLS. But centre-backs are different breeds altogether, and let's hope he's a positive signing and it's not going to be like another Diego Rodriguez or something like that.
Yeah, it could be like a similar thing where they will sign him for the rest of the year. They see how he is. He might not see any action, might see some action, and then they have the option for 2019 to bring him back again. And then a couple of players moving on, one permanently, one temporarily. Meyer Bevan is going on loan to Fresno, yes. And then Ibini, they mutually terminated the contract. For me, it seems like, and this was kind of really under the radar, it happened on Wednesday. It seemed like Ibini, maybe they told him that he wasn't coming back next year, and then he had an offer from, I think it's Emirates FC and United UAE, and maybe they decided to part ways at that point. Does that sound right to you? Or do you think that's probably what happened, or just speculating?
Yeah, I mean, I think they probably told him, see if you can find yourself another club.
Yeah.
And as soon as you do, we'll let you go.
Yeah.
It's a big salary dump off the books for the Caps, 300 grand, and freeing up an international spot as well. So big move to get rid of him, and the right decision. He's been a bust. I genuinely have no idea why they thought this was a good move to even bring him in the first place, because he just has never fitted in. Meyer Bevan, I'm high on Meyer Bevan. I think he's really got a future with the club, but he has to play.
Yeah.
He needs to get minutes. He's back from his loan deal over in Scandinavia. Hopefully he gets regular minutes in Fresno, because he's a guy that's played and scored at the senior level for New Zealand. So he's a striker. We need strikers, so good luck to Meyer down there.
Now, obviously, no players coming in. Now, we don't want to speculate, but this was brought up on Twitter by a couple of people. I don't think they published it, but they kind of messaged us like privately. With the fact that there's no activity, does it kind of uplift some but make some rumors that Robbo could be on his way out? They don't want him spending the money, Davies' money, even though they haven't got it yet, but they could still pre-spend it, and then actually once they get it, they could put it back in somewhere else in the team, right? Do you think that kind of stokes some rumors, or do you think it's really nothing to, because Robbo said that they're probably not going to bring anybody in?
Yeah, I mean it's easy to stoke rumors, and it's easy to start rumors, and it's easy to read into things, but it does smack that the club are maybe not sure will they keep going with Carl Robinson next year. And if they're not, you don't want Robbo just now spending that money. You want whatever new guy is going to come in to have his own players, to spend the Davies money, to build his own team. So, I mean, it's hard not to read into that. There's been some rumours doing the rounds that his assistants have not had their contracts renewed yet for next season. So, I mean, reading into all that, conspiracy theory hat on, it might be that it's a case of we want to wait and see. If you win a Canadian championship, if you get into the playoffs, we're happy to have you here next year. If you don't, maybe time to move on, and we want the new guy to build his own team.
Yeah, it's something that normally would happen, but I don't think it's. I think maybe this is spurred on the team. Maybe this is something that the players have heard of, and this is kind of spurring them on because obviously they like Robbo and they want him to stay. So, because if a new coach comes in, they don't know where their standing is. So, this could all work in part with each other. Do you have any other final Whitecaps thoughts this week? Maybe going into the TFC game and how you see that going?
It's a big week, and I mean TFC's the focus. But next Saturday's game, we talked about this in the show last week. Next Saturday's game against the Red Bulls is massive. It's at home. You're playing a really good team. You need to win that match to keep in the playoff hunt, which they've done very well, and other results this week have kind of helped them. You've got to win that. So TFC's massive. You want to win a trophy. I want this team back in the Champions League. I love the Champions League and what it can be and what it can mean to the Whitecaps. These two games coming up, pivotal for the season, I feel.
Yeah, and if they want to get to that Champions League, they need to win that game against TFC or score 3 goals, essentially, and get a 3-3 draw. Because 2-2 draw, they'll go to penalties. Yeah. So it'll be.
I don't think I can take penalties after what happened in Portland.
Oh, for sure. That would be like even from however far we'll be from that game, it's still no matter. TV brings everything closer together. It raises the stress just as much. But that game itself, we're going to preview it next, but it won't be me and Michael. We brought in Joe and Nick to preview the game, the upcoming game, find out what their thoughts are. So this is a pre-recorded one from earlier this afternoon. So after the break, come back, listen to Joe and Nick and their preview of the TFC game.
Hi, I'm Jake Nowinski, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Hello, Sunday night people, or people who listen to podcasts before Wednesday. I'm joined by Nick here. We're going to preview the TFC Cup final. Mm-hmm. Nick, how are you going to celebrate when the Whitecaps win the Canadian Championship?
I like the optimism. I have a Bomber Brewing beer in my fridge.
Okay.
So if they win, then I will celebrate by drinking that.
Crack open a boy with the cold ones.
Crack open, and if they lose, then I will crack it open and just cry into it.
Yeah. Either way, you're having that beer either way.
Either way,
I'm gonna get the hoverboard out. I think
that is a classic Whitecaps celebration.
Well, Pamuduka isn't with the team anymore. Someone has to take over hoverboard duties, right? Yeah. And I'm a willing I'll sacrifice myself. It's a cause. It's a cause I can get behind. We are recording on Sunday afternoon, not a very orthodox time for us to do our preview podcast.
It feels weird.
Usually it's a Tuesday or Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And we're kind of...
The sun is out still.
Yeah, it's very strange. Usually it's a hump day, right? Like Tuesday or Wednesday. We're just trying to get through the week. But, and TFC haven't played their game either. They're halfway through their game. Although there's been some interesting developments while we were getting ready for the show. As of right now, they are losing 1-0 to NYCFC, and Altidore just got a red card.
That was a really stupid red card.
Yeah, we just saw...
That was like a Whitecaps worthy style
We'll get to that later. You have some very good stats on that. But that's it's going well, as well as it could go for the Whitecaps in this situation, right? NYCFC winning at Toronto, and their striker getting sent off. Although we're not sure if the red card will carry over, Nick, because you were saying on how that works.
Yeah, so the red card that we were talking about for
Juarez,
yeah, was deemed serious enough that the Canadian Soccer Association didn't let him play.
Okay.
But
Felipe's
red card was not deemed serious enough, I guess, by the MLS.
Which is why he played.
Which is why he was able to play against Portland.
So, based on what we saw on that highlight of Altidore kicking the NYCFC player, is that a serious enough play?
I mean, it's a difference between he kicked out against an opponent.
But the ball was nowhere near.
Yeah.
Like it was completely off the ball.
I could definitely see there being an argument made for that, but at the same time, I think the reason why the Juarez one happened was because it was against a
high-profile
team.
And
I don't think the CSA wants to take away one of the star powers.
It's true. The marketability
of the cup goes down if Altidore isn't there. So why would you?
Yeah, it's true.
Why would you do that?
Although if he does get suspended, they would have to play Ricketts up front.
And Ricketts wasn't that bad, and
it's true.
He was making runs, and I mean they mostly were able to deal with him.
With
Altidore too.
Yeah.
I mean, except for that last play, but.
Yeah, yeah. That let's not revisit the.
We already visited that enough. Oh, Javinko scored.
Okay, it's 1-1. We should just watch the game and talk through it. But we only have a few. Like we've been giving a time slot to go through. So yeah, Javinko, who just scored, is probably going to play this game. He didn't play last match away in Vancouver, probably just to save him from the travel, things like that. You have to think that the way this tie is poised, that both teams will just put out their best teams and go for it, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, TFC isn't having a good year.
Yeah.
Whitecaps aren't having a good year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a game that allows each of them to get something. Win something.
Yeah.
You know, something is actually on the line. Obviously, the Voyageurs Cup and CONCACAF Championships as well.
Cascadia Cup, I guess chances for the Whitecaps went up significantly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're all tied.
Yeah, all
and
tied.
It's only separated by goal difference right now.
And Whitecaps have 2 home games to finish that out.
Yeah.
Not that means anything against Cascadia teams, but better than going to Seattle or Portland again, right? Like Toronto, it's hard to assess their season. Like you know when Leicester won the title, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then next season they
didn't do it.
And the fans weren't that miffed really because they won the title of the league the year before, right? TFC have finally won the MLS Cup.
And they did a triple.
The Canadian Championship, the Supporters Shield, and the MLS Cup. It's true. So like after a high like that, do you think the fans are kind of annoyed that the team aren't doing well? Like making the playoffs is obviously the minimum requirement, but they're 3 places outside of the playoffs right now.
I mean, if I was a TFC person, I would be.
First of all, we wouldn't be friends, but anyway, continue.
I'm like in theory in an alternate reality where Nick is born in Toronto,
not Langley.
What would happen? I guess like I would be angry. I mean, you have basically, arguably, that team was one of the best MLS teams of all time, or at least would be in the discussion.
And most of that team has remained intact.
And most of that team is still here. And in fact, if anything, they've
added players.
Yeah. And then I think the only thing that would stop me from being super angry is they had tons of injuries.
Yeah, to start the season, Bradley was playing in centre back at the start.
And when you have your midfielders playing in centre back,
like the Whitecaps do,
you know that is.
But the Whitecaps do it voluntarily. They put Gazal in there when.
But it always looks like he's. It's ironic because it always looks like he's gonna score an own goal.
Yeah.
When he's back there, but then our actual centre back.
It's true. And then he punches a wall and puts himself in a cast.
He will not. At least he won't handball.
It's true.
If he plays, he won't handball because his hand is in a cast.
Was it the TFC game? Am I confusing games that there was that handball in the first half? It was the TFC game, right? The first Whitecaps goal was...
The first Whitecaps goal was Ricketts.
Oh, yeah.
Put his hand up in the
so
corner.
Henry won't be doing that.
So hopefully Henry won't be taking defensive lessons from Ricketts.
Or it'll bounce off his cast and just go into the goal even faster.
If that would be legendary.
It would.
If we had some sort of hand of God goal to take it.
To win it, you mean?
Yeah, how would you feel about that?
There's no VAR, so bring it on. So, like, TFC are going to play their best lineup. Mm-hmm. You imagine, if Altidore can play, that's actually a big factor. Yeah. Like, in the game, I think in the coming days...
Altidore, if I was TFC, I would way prefer Altidore over Ricketts. because Altidore will occupy our center back.
Yeah.
And if we're going to play super deep, which I expect them to do, he can help. He's pretty creative. I don't think people give him...
You mean Altidore?
Altidore,
around the corner passes and touches and 1-2s. He's very good for that, especially with Javinko.
Yeah.
Like, Javinko needs a player to bounce off of, right? And like, Altidore is exactly that.
Whereas Ricketts is more direct and running.
Yeah. Ricketts always seems like he's more comfortable when the ball goes wide and he can come back in. He does finish too, I guess. He gets at the end of crosses. Okay, Whitecaps. Mm-hmm. So we've been talking the last few weeks how there's these 3 big games, starting with the first leg of the final, this Portland game, which went really well, but I'm sure the listeners have already heard all about that from the guys on the show. And now this game, right? It's kind of the end of this very important stretch, but there's more important games coming, right? This isn't the end of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the end of important stretches, especially if you want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the end goal, I guess. But the expectations will change based on how this game goes as well. Let's talk a bit about lineups. Marinovic, I think, is in some fine form, and we can't really...
Oh, yeah, fantastic. He stole that game.
He had some very nice saves, yeah. Centre-back, we go with Waston, and if Henry's fit, I would still put him back in there. But although there will be kind of a mental torment for him based on that last...
It is a mental torment, but then if you're angry enough to punch a wall... Maybe you're very motivated.
Well, you'd be angry enough to punch someone in the face as well and get a red card. Or it could tie back into our theory about how the Whitecaps want to play with the man down.
I mean, this team very clearly plays with like an edge.
Oh, I think they're over the edge.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time sometimes.
They're basically Wile E. Coyote over the... waiting to drop.
And Gantar is the anvil that falls.
Yeah, exactly.
Centre-back, that's the matchup that I would go with. Although Mond would be okay.
Mond played really well. I mean, he's never been bad, but he's never, I guess, been as better, like a clear and above cut choice.
No, I think Henry's had a couple of standout games that have made him the first, or I guess the choice to partner to Waston. I think Nerwinski should start on right.
Well, I mean, Franklin and Levis, they played. Yeah. So I think you just rotate your outside backs.
Yeah, and Nerwinski looked really good when he came on.
Yeah, Nerwinski and De Jong played really well in that game.
Yeah,
I think
the first game.
Yeah.
I think that back four is the way to go. They played a 4-2-3-1, which switched to a 4-5-1 in the Portland game. Mm-hmm. Do you think we go back to the 4-4-2, bearing in mind that we need to probably win this game outright?
I think 4-4-2. It depends on how we're going to set up. I think if you have 2 more defensively minded central midfielders, then I think it would be fine.
Who would you want as those central or defensive-minded midfielders?
I mean, I would prefer to have Tybert in there for sure, because and I would like to have Gazal, but he played the full
90.
Full 90, so I don't know if he has.
Yeah, Tybert but I want Gazal.
Mm-hmm. I would prefer Gazal because it's more. It was way more balanced. It's way more balanced.
And Gazal gives a lot of strength to that midfield. You know. Mm-hmm. Because there will be physical battles if you're in there with like Bradley and like if Javinko gets on the ball, you need someone really strong there. And I seem to recall, this might be something just weird in my head, but Gazal had tackled Javinko really well in previous games, not necessarily the last game, but like previous times they played. That might be something that's not true at all, but that's kind of the fantasy I have in my head of Gazal doing. So if it is a 4-4-2. We both would hope for Gazal and Tybert if they're both good to go. Correct. Yeah. They chartered a flight back from Portland. I think you're allowed a few chartered flights a year or something like that. So they have a day off on I think today, and they fly out to Toronto on Monday. So they'll that's a good idea. I think.
And it shows that the strategy is to take this competition, this cup seriously.
Absolutely. I think from the first game's lineup, we could see that. Yeah. Like, they really want to go for this. Okay, if Davies is fit, I don't think there's any argument.
No, I mean, Breakin has...
He played well, but his assist was from the right.
Yeah.
So you could play Breakin on the right.
Maybe.
But Teixeira, is a good option there as well. Mm-hmm. If you had to pick one?
I think I would go with Teixeira.
Yeah? I would go with Shea, just because it's an away game.
I think he... Maybe go with Shea... only because he's been on a good run of form.
Yeah.
And then hope that form doesn't abandon you this match.
If Shea does play instead of Teixeira, who would take the set pieces? Reina, I guess.
That's a good question. Yeah, I think Reina.
Maybe Teixeira plays for that reason then.
Just for the set pieces?
Well, you need like one or two
someone,
options, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A left foot and a right foot, ideally, but
yeah. And I mean, listen, Teixeira's scored some fantastic free kicks too.
Mm-hmm. And yesterday was his 100th appearance for the Whitecaps, or start, one or the other. On the left, Davies, hopefully. If not, we might have to have Shea in there. But he played well, so it's not.
So I mean, he's not the quality that Davies is.
Which Shea will show up? Wait,
that's a good question.
Let's go back to that previous point.
Okay.
Shea is not the quality of Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Oh, interesting.
What analysis?
Hashtag analysis. I think in the 4-4-2, the wide positions are,
where you're
90% of the
your
creativity.
Attack. Yeah.
And how those wingers link up with Reina is pretty much decides how the tempo of the attack. Correct.
And it does decide the tempo of the attack, and but it also kind of goes back to, well, how is TFC going to set up?
Yeah.
Because if TFC wanted, they could just be like, come and try and get it.
Yeah.
And look for space behind the Whitecaps, especially if they were going to have to play with Ricketts.
But if I'm TFC, I am
trying to just win it outright.
Well, I would prepare, if just to go very narrowly into the details of their game plan, I would prepare for the main threat from Vancouver, which is Alphonso Davies.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming he plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
We might hear some news between now and tonight's show, or early in the week that he's unavailable.
Yeah.
He roasted TFC.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
He should have had a goal.
He should have had a goal or an assist or something.
So I think I'm preparing for that, right? Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, I don't think they push very high because they don't want to give Davies that space to go forward. And Bradley didn't have a great game last week.
No.
He acts as a very good screen to that back four. I think he kind of annuls the Reina threat depending on their performances, right? Up front, I think it's Kai Kamara.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a fantastic goal against Portland, and he did a lot of, and he also scored a fantastic penalty in the last game. So he's clearly on form, on pace.
And Reina probably and that false nine or whatever shadow
second striker forward. Yeah. I think that's a good call.
Do you think the Caps will do it?
Do I think they'll do it? Right now, I think it's a coin toss.
Yeah.
Because
so they need 2 goals.
Because they need 2 goals to cancel. Well, they either need if they get 1 goal and they shut them out, which is highly unlikely.
Yeah.
Then they're in the clear. But again, the way our defense has been is so
it's
bad.
hard to call with both sides, right? Because you don't know which TFC are going to show. Should we have a TFC score check just to see in the time we've recorded?
Sure, let's take a look.
2-1 NYC.
2-1 NYCFC. There you go.
It could have turned around by the time it's over, but they're playing with 10 men too, I guess. So it's not great. But I hope it's a nice morale shattering
loss.
Yeah, because the Whitecaps morale can't be. I guess it's better after the. Portland game.
After that Portland game.
They really needed that Portland game.
I don't think really anybody expected them to go into Portland.
Not at all.
And get a result like that.
No.
They played with.
We were downbeat when we did the preview show.
Oh yeah, we were basically like, well, this game is probably a scratch.
I think we called it a throwaway game at multiple points.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, there was a lot of rotation, so it was in a sense a throwaway game.
Yeah, but this game is all out. You have to go for it.
Yeah.
This could be the defining game of the season if they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it could also give them a boost to help them make the playoffs. Right?
It's very possible. Very, very possible.
I mean, there's only what was it? I think I saw somewhere MLS playoff chances. They only have 13% chance to make the playoffs.
Oh, you had that very interesting stat about fouls and red cards for the Whitecaps.
Yeah, so they have in MLS play 6 red cards. But in terms of fouls committed, they've only committed 276 fouls. So they're around middle of the pack.
Yeah. But so what that tells me, and tell me if this is what you agree with, let me know. It means that they're not committing lots of fouls, but they're committing bad fouls. Or losing discipline in tackles and things like that.
Well, I think they're losing discipline in tackles, and they're losing discipline, I guess, at key moments where you shouldn't be losing discipline.
At referees.
Like, especially at referees. I mean, that's just... And I mean, the way that things have been going, I mean, I guess you could argue, is the bad mentality going to keep going, or are they going to swing it around and finally be on for an important game here?
Yeah, if we could go a month without a red card, that would be lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
But I think August has already been tarnished by Felipe's red card.
Yeah.
So that's that. Well, anyway, that's our little preview. We may or may not have a show midweek to preview next weekend's game, and by then we'll know if the Canadian Championship winner is.
Whether it's coming home.
It should be coming home only the second time. It's like a foster care of Vancouver for the Canadian Championship. All right, well, there's going to be a little bit of a break on the show, and after this, Steve and Zach will bring all the other action from the MLS this week. Like we're a time capsule right now because we don't know the final score of the TFC. So who knows? TFC might have won 5-2 or something, and we got all optimistic for no reason. But yeah, tune in after the break for Steve and Zach, and they will continue all the MLS chat after this.
Actually, thanks, Joe. We won't be going to break because Michael wanted to talk about TFC a little bit. But thanks to Joe and Nick for doing that. It gave us a little break, especially with Zach not here. He will be joining us, hopefully, for the next part. But Michael, you wanted to give your thoughts about TFC and what you're expecting to see in the upcoming game.
Yeah, and we'll play a little bit of audio as well from a couple of the players on Robbo after the Portland game as well. But before we get to that, I mean, we've never really talked ourselves about that first leg. It's still incredible the way that played out. It's like it looked so much that they were going to be heading to Toronto with a 1-goal lead. The second half showing with the 10 men was one of the best performances, I think, of the whole season so far.
I agree with you there. It showed a lot of heart, dedication. I'm going to repeat what Robbo says. But yeah, it was a fantastic showing because when they went down at half, I didn't expect anything. I was thinking, okay, if they can just hold on, they held on for a tie eventually. But the fact that they went ahead and took the lead and looked like they were heading, of course, the curse of the Voyageurs Cup strikes them again, always in a different way, it seems like. And there were people that don't follow this competition that were asking me, does this always happen to the Whitecaps? Because it seems like it's always happening. I said, yes, it's happening for a very long time.
Yeah, but whenever we get round to writing the book on the Whitecaps' fortunes in this competition, it's going to be so far-fetched that in years to come, no one's going to believe that it's not actually a work of fiction.
It's a science fiction.
Yeah. I mean, they did well. I'm confident going into the second leg that the Whitecaps can at least score. It's whether they can do enough. I agree with what the guys said in the preview there. I don't think we're going to keep TFC off the score sheet. So then it comes down, do we win 2-1? Do we get a 2-2 draw and take it to extra time? Or scoring 3 at BMO Field when your team is knackered is maybe going to be a bit far-fetched as well. But Saturday's win in Portland will definitely give them a little bit of momentum. And I asked Robbo and Kai Kamara and Stefan Marinovic just for some thought heading into Wednesday. So I think we've got that ready to play just now.
Yeah, we do. So here's the audio from yesterday and them talking about the Voyageurs Cup and what's coming up.
The team kind of looked like they were playing on fumes a little bit towards the end. Yeah. With Wednesday coming up, what's your plan going into that? You got a chance to rest some guys today, but looking forward to Wednesday, what's your game plan?
Listen, we've got to go again. I say every week to you, the travel schedules are pain in the backside, but it is what it is, you know, so you try and rotate and freshness. Mondi comes in today, Shawnee Franklin, exceptional. You know, the two midfield players were top-notch. Rusty, I left out the 18 because he's going to be involved on the weekend. Jordi didn't even play, and Jordi and Fonzie struggling, obviously, today. He's struggling for Wednesday as well. So the boys have put themselves in the shop window, but we'll go. Listen, whether we can do it or not on Wednesday, we'll see. But it won't be for the lack of heart and effort.
Heading into Wednesday's game now as well, I mean, the momentum that must give the team, and just looking forward to that. What are you expecting on Wednesday?
Yeah, I hope so. But it's another hostile environment going to Toronto, and the game is kind of even. That's how we look at it. But their fans are going to be behind them. They know they have the upper hand. Hosting the game on Wednesday, the Cup final and all that. But hey, we've done well on the road, and we're looking forward to going over there and hopefully bring back the trophy home.
It goes without saying this gives you a big boost going into Wednesday, but what are you expecting from Wednesday's match?
I personally hope more of the same. Some of the players that played today won't play on Wednesday. They'll play on. The play today won't play on Wednesday. But those players that have just had today off will come back refreshed. Hopefully, seeing the effort the boys all put in today. They're all 11 men, and the subs, and couple onto that hopefully, and produce a similar type of performance.
Yeah, there were the thoughts of the team there. Obviously, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, they're knackered and they're gonna have to travel." But you think of TFC having to play a full game today, down 10 men, and they had to put a lot of effort today. That might play into the benefit of the Whitecaps. Because we can update the game. They lost 3-2 today, really late in the game. So it was a demoralizing loss for them. And like I said, Altidore, yeah, it might be a negative that he got so much rest because he only played 11 minutes. But it also might be everybody else had to put in more effort. So what do you do you think that has a big part in the game?
Yeah, that can work two ways, because it could demoralize them, but at the same time, that defeat might make them think, you know what, this Canadian Championship is really all that our season's got left.
It seems like that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they are still realistically in with it. If they win the two games in hand, they're very close to the red line. But you've also got New England at 6 points ahead of them with 2 games in hand, the same 2 games in hand. So even them winning their 2 games in hand, it's still difficult for them. So I think it makes Wednesday all the bigger for them. They did have a pretty much full-strength lineup out today. I think we can be pretty sure that the Whitecaps will have a as full-strength lineup out as they can. And as the guy said, it's a toss-up whether Davies is going to make it or not. I've got to be honest, I don't think he will.
Yeah.
I just have a hunch he's not going to, unless Robo's playing a great mind games and making it think that it's worse than it is. But I think the Caps will go and get a draw. I think it's going to be 1-1, and I think it's just going to be a little bit more heartbreak. I hope I'm wrong. I thought we were going to get beat 3-0 in Portland, so what do I know?
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's what we all knew. None of us thought it was like, as the preview guy said too, that Joe and Nick they thought it was going to be a throwaway game. So it definitely is a toss up at this point. I think they can do it. I think it's because they had such bad luck in the first leg. Maybe it'll reverse in the second leg, and maybe they can continue this like batten down the hatches kind of technique and get away with it one more game, because it seemed to work against Portland even, and then Toronto's had such a tough year where they just haven't got any breaks. It depends on who gets the breaks in this point.
Well, it doesn't look like Ganter's going to be the referee, so I guess that's a plus.
Yeah, definitely. We won't have Robbo yelling at him during the game either. But now it brings us to your favorite part of the show, Michael, wavelength.
Yes, and this is going to be my final bit of the show tonight, and then we'll get Zach on for the next part.
If he calls it.
Yeah, if he calls it. If not, you're on your own. I'm sure you can handle it. Yeah, so we're just going to round off this part with our wavelength section. It is, of course, Football Violence Awareness Month here on AFTN, and we're continuing that with a song from 2002 from a punk band from Watford in England called Argy Bargy, from their album Songs from the Streets, And this is Saturday's Glory.
In the bank, 2 cars on the drive, 3 smashing kids and a beautiful wife. He's got an ensuite and a flash TV, a fully fitted kitchen and a DVD. He takes a lot of money but he always makes a loss. He knows the Texans watching but he doesn't give a toss. He's got his own firm, him always a one, but he's a different geezer when Saturday comes. And he says, I just can't help it, all I wanna do is fight. The Saturday afternoon's gonna be alright. I just can't help it, all I wanna do is fight. The Saturday afternoon's gonna be alright. The wife makes his dinner, I'm on him make his cheese, but antagonized not on the fact that he ain't what he seems. He's a bit lively when he wants to be, but he'll still give up his seat for an OAP. He likes a bit of toot to compliment his beer. He's always got an all he used to ask about his gear. He's 100 million miles away now, he's with his boo, fired up, ready to rock, he knows just what to do. And he says, I just can't help it, all I wanna do is fight. The Saturday afternoon's gonna be alright. I just can't help it, all I wanna do is fight. The Saturday afternoon's gonna be alright. And his own website is the only way to organise a modern street fight. The police have got a photo, we don't want his mum to see, but she'll see him tonight on the BBC. It went off in the boozer, it went off in the streets, it went off in the car and it went off in the seats. His jacket's all ripped, but he couldn't give a fuck. He's saying his glory and he loves to rock. And he says, I just can't help it, all I wanna do is fight. The Saturday afternoon's gonna be alright. I just can't help it, all I wanna do is fight. The Saturday afternoon's gonna be alright.
Hi guys, I'm Aaron Mon. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back. And we're now joined, he's escaped from Middle Cascadia, Zach Meisenheimer. How you doing, Zach?
I'm doing okay, Steve. How you doing?
Not too bad. I was a little shocked when I got the message from your wife that's saying that you might not make it. I thought I had to do a solo for parts 4 and 5, but luckily you're back. You're safe. How's the car?
We'll find out tomorrow.
Okay.
I had a flat tire.
Oh, okay. That's not too bad. You were obviously in Portland. You were going to join us for the first part, but let's get your thoughts on the game itself. Give us the quick Coles notes on what your thoughts on the Timbers game was.
Yeah, I thought the side really battled and put in a great away. It was a great away performance, and I think there's so much to be proud of in this match. The result, obviously, but just the grit and determination. It felt like that's how you wanted them to finish on Wednesday, right? But obviously they were playing with 11 men, so it was a little bit different. But no, two headed goals in the first half. Kai Kamara gets a little help from Jeff Antonella on his goal, but still, he called for it, he placed it, it worked out well. And then Breck Shea had a moment, a few more than one moment, but he looked like a DP, crossing the ball with his right foot for El Bicho to get his head on again, which was just really great. And then it was one of those nights where, like, when Valeri misses the first of their penalties, you just felt like, okay, there's no way that this can get screwed up. And
that final 5 minutes of that first half was opposite of almost every other final 5 minutes for the Whitecaps this year.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I still say Breck Shea did not deliver a good cross. Well, he did, but because for a normal sized guy, that would not ever hit that head because it was Teixeira. He's 5'2" or whatever. That was a good cross for him, I guess. Maybe it was. I'll give him credit for this.
Yeah. No, it was a great finish. Like, it was, El Bicho knew what he was doing, and it was great. And like in the stadium, the atmosphere was, let's put it this way, it was, the result helps, but it was a lot better than Seattle way earlier this year. Kudos to those who were there.
For sure. Obviously, it was a massive win for the Caps. It sees them in the 7th in the West, 8th in points per game. They're 2 points behind RSL now. Even both LA teams, because of the results this week, are within 3. So let's go over some of these games. I know you haven't had a chance to watch all the replays, but let's go over the West in review. First of all, the Colorado-San Jose game, it obviously doesn't seem to mean as much, but Colorado is kind of on a run. 2-1 to Colorado over San Jose. Tommy Smith scores early in the first half with a header. Tim Howard had some big saves for them, kept San Jose at bay. Even Tarval made a save, but then the 58th minute conversion by Magnus Eriksson. San Jose went down to 10 men. I don't know if you saw Shea Salinas.
I did. I saw that.
Pulled back and then did a wild swing, and it was a straight red card. It was no VAR situation here. It looked like it was heading
on Shea Salinas.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was surprised at. When I saw the swing, and then I saw it was Shea Salinas. I was going, what's going on here? And then it looked like a draw, but then Nana Boateng, late goal, kind of found the net through the winner. Obviously, we normally wouldn't even talk about this that much, but Colorado has been on a run. Do you think this could propel them? They got Kellen Acosta. That's kind of seemed to turn their year around. Is it too late for them, or do you think they can come back in this?
It's MLS, so you can never say never, especially if you have for as awful as Tim Howard's return to MLS has been. He showed today, what he can do, even at his age and the stage of his career that he's at. So you can never say never. However, I think it would be highly unlikely for them to, complete their run to making a playoff spot.
Yeah, it's too many teams to leapfrog. Let's get into another team, Columbus and Houston. It was in Columbus. Positive, Dynamo finished with 11 men. They didn't have anybody sent off, but they were short. They couldn't beat Stefan on a number of times. And then they gave up a goal in injury time. I don't know if I'm going to say this almost every game because I'm not sure what you saw. Zardes got the goal. He wasn't offside, but Mullins kind of interfered with the play, I thought, because he went up for the header. It went over him. There was no contact. But did you think it was enough to warrant an offside call, or do you think it was a clean goal?
Well, first off, I think Houston is coming. This is a huge week for Houston.
Yeah,
I can't remember the last time they made the U.S. Open Cup final, and I'm a little bit surprised that they were able to get by the Goats, in the end on a shootout. So it's like just a huge week for them. So they would have gone into this game even though it was away from home on a high. I've seen the goal, and I think that it's hard to say. It's hard to say that the guy, because he attempts to play the ball, right? He misses it. It looks like, right? So it's hard to say he wasn't interfering with play when he literally makes a play for the header, right? So a little surprised that got to stay, but from the perspective of Vancouver, obviously it's good. And if you for everyone with hashtag Save the Crew, which this is a big match for, you got to be happy for Columbus.
Yeah, they got some revenge over Texas, even though it's Austin is nearby, but it's not exactly it's actually not even that nearby. It's pretty opposite of the state. Let's go to the next game. RSL. Montreal came through for Vancouver. They didn't come back through for them in the Voyageurs Cup years ago, but this time they came through. It was a 1-1 draw. Plata got the early goal when he was taken down in the box just before the half-hour mark. They had a number of chances, but for once, Evan Bush came up big. Last time I remember seeing him, he was playing in the Portland game where he gave up a couple of howlers. Impact tied it. Yuko Reitla. It was almost a slicing shot, kind of Alan Rochat-like. A really nice shot. Then Montreal had 3 good chances to take all 3 points, but Raimondo this time denied him. Your thought? Did you watch this one, or what were your thoughts on it? If you did,
no, this one I haven't seen all the highlights.
But it's a big one for the Montreal coming into RSL and taking a point at least.
Yeah, first off, Montreal is not doing is not intentionally doing Vancouver any favors at all. They need points. They want to try and make it into the playoffs. So good for them to get an away result, right? Like even though it's only a point away from home. That's pretty huge for them. Yeah, I mean the first goal is a penalty, right? It's Plata from the spot, right?
Plata from the spot, yeah. So he was taken down, but like I said, Bush with a number of good saves on his part. Next game is Kansas City. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I did see the takedown for the penalty. And
yeah.
It was a little soft.
It was a little, but then you got Plata, who's like 4'8", and if you take him down a little bit, I guess people are going to call it all the time because, he kind of probably reminds them of their 10-year-old or something like that.
Yeah. Good job to Montreal for fighting back and getting a point.
For sure. Kansas City went into LAFC and handed them. I could be wrong, but I think it was their first loss at home all year long. They struck first. Fernandez buried a pass from Diego Rubio. They had a late chance to make it 2-0, but Zardes hit the bar. Vela, the first chance, I only saw the highlights, but Vela finally had a chance at the hour mark. But then a penalty kick for KC. Lopez tried to make a big save, spilled the ball. Felipe Gutierrez tried to head it, but got kicked in the head by Canadian international Dejan Jakovic. And I thought that it was kind of an iffy call. But they did review it. I was thinking that maybe they reviewed it. Did that review call come from New York because they didn't want LAFC to go down by 2? But they confirmed it by VAR. Sanchez converts. They had chances, the former Goats, but they were denied. And yeah, it looks. I think, like I said, I think their undefeated streak ended today or yesterday.
Well, in the same way that Houston, going to this, Houston would have been on a high in their game against Columbus. You got to figure that the Goats must have been a little demoralized from that semifinal exit of the U.S. Open Cup in a shootout, nonetheless. It was their first loss at home this year. They've had this big. It was their big. Well, not big. It was their hashtag. I think that you saw Jordan Harvey and all their players using, right? Defend the bank.
Oh, okay.
And so today is the first day where they didn't defend it in league play. So they'll be disappointed in that. But I mean, they're still in a playoff spot.
Oh, for sure.
They're still battling.
But I think it gets on an expansion team. I think later in the year, and they brought in a lot of their players, top players, are first-time MLSers. I believe. Maybe the 1 or 2 are like players, but they're top players. And traveling gets on newcomers. We remember famously Pedro Morales. By the end of the year, for his first year here, he was kind of worn down. And guys like Vela and Diego Rossi, they don't normally travel this much, and maybe the traveling will get to them, and they could slip up.
Yeah, well, I mean, remember at the beginning of the year when everyone's like, "Oh, their squad is so," they were, I guess, slow in building their squad, you could say.
Yeah.
And so it was like, how are they going to cope with everything? And they have made this deep run into the U.S. Open Cup, but in one sense, I can see them, tiring a bit. I did see the replay of Jakovic's kick to the head. And,
It was a clear penalty. I don't know why it was reviewed. I'm not sure.
No, yeah, it was. As much as I appreciate Dean as a Canadian international, there was no question about that was a penalty. Only in MLS would you review that.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
SKC. I think people need to be worried of SKC, especially with bringing in Christian Nemeth.
Nemeth, yeah, he was brought in this last week. Yeah, just at the deadline.
He was, pretty deadly when he was there before.
Yeah.
And I think he'll really, really, really help them again.
And a lot of the players are still there, so it's not like he has to gain chemistry with them. He should be able to pick up where he left off when he was there before. The Galaxy, the other LA team, hosted Minnesota, which is I don't know if that's happened this year where both LA teams played on the same day. I could be wrong, but I don't recall it previous weeks. But
what time? Do you know what time kickoffs were?
I think there were separate times for kickoffs, but I rarely ever saw the same team But of course, like I said, I'm not sure. I don't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning, so my memory's not the greatest.
That would have been really cool if you could have gone to both games.
Yeah, it would have been. But LA traffic though is gonna it might not play into that. You might need a whole day to travel from one place to another. But the game itself,
I think they were pretty close. Yeah.
The game itself, Romain Lettuce scores from like 25 yards out. Alice, that's why I call him Romain Lettuce because I can't pronounce his last name. Not much else happened in the first half, but the second half, especially the last hour, that's where all the goals happened.
What did you think about the opening goal?
It was a solid shot. I can't remember. Was there something controversial?
I just think Marius Rovda would not be happy with Bobby Shuttleworth on it.
Oh, yeah. He definitely could have done better to get down to it, but it wasn't a decent shot. It was, like I said, it wasn't a strike, but especially from 25 yards out. But I do agree that Shuttleworth should have had it.
It does take a little bounce, but as a keeper, I think you
need that kind of save. Yeah.
It took a bounce, but it wasn't like a Gershon Kofi 2011 bounce over Sean John.
Yeah.
From the Fire, right?
For sure. Boxall tied it up. He raced the nightmares of Alphonso Davies finally. He scored on a second phase header. Nice header from the near post. I think it might have, I didn't check into it, but it might have been his first ever goal. Do you remember him scoring with the Whitecaps at all? Or
I don't think he scored in league play.
Yeah, I don't think he scored in the Minnesota at all, for sure, since he came back.
First off, that will not. I don't think you can get rid of the nightmares of for Michael Boxall of Alphonso Davies.
Even the ones that he wasn't even at fault for.
And I think he'll remember that for quite a while.
Yeah. Then less than 10 minutes later, Sebastian Lletget. And they said it on the broadcast too. I didn't even listen to the audio. I was just watching it. And they mentioned that the Red Sea parted. And I wrote down the Red Sea parted at the same time. And that's exactly what happened. Minnesota's defense just gave him the space and go, take on our goalkeeper. And he did, and he beat him, put him back on top. It only lasted another 10 minutes. Romario Ibarra converted in the 6-yard box from a counterattack. Nice cross. And then this was unbelievable. And you don't expect this from your captain. Calvo gets a real dumb yellow card for time wasting. Basically, it was a free kick. He grabbed the ball. He didn't throw it away, but he threw it way up in the air, really high up in the air. And it was very blatant. They gave him a second yellow. He was off right away. There was a shout out for Zlatan to get he was taken down in the 95th minute late, but Toledo told him to get up. So it ended up 2-2. They split the points, and another good result for the Whitecaps.
Yeah, again, the Lletget goal, that can't happen, right?
No, it can't.
Their coaches will be just hey, we played this, very respectable game away to LA, and we've thrown it away.
Minnesota, based on
the
Shuttleworth and that second goal, Minnesota threw away 2 goals, and they should have won that game. I'm sure that's what Adrian Heath told us after Vancouver, and then I'm sure he's saying that after this game as well.
Yeah, the Calvo thing. The one thing that was a little surprising for me is that why did he leave the field so quickly? thought he would have wasted some time.
Yeah, exactly. You should have complained a little bit more. You gave him more time to get into the game. And then let's go to today's results. You didn't get to watch Seattle Dallas, because that was late.
I know the result, but I haven't seen those highlights yet.
So essentially, I'll go over it, and we didn't get a chance to remember this, but it was a pretty good game. A lot of fireworks after the game was over, but early on, it was in the first half. Chad Marshall scored on a header, and it was basically 1-0. Didn't look like Dallas was going to give much, but then they finally put one away. It was Badgie, his first goal since coming over from Colorado for Acosta. Yeah, and then but that only lasted 10, 11 minutes. Ladero scored a free kick from the right side of the box, and it was basically one of those free kicks where it missed everybody. And the keeper was not in position, and it just went in the far post. And then he took off his shoe, called up whoever he calls up. I think they mentioned that he calls his dad. He used to call his dad after every game, and since he passed away, that's his celebration. So that's nice to see, even though he is a Sounder.
He's following in the footsteps of his fellow Uruguayan Christian Techera, who did it a number of years ago. The Chad Marshall goal I've seen, and it is typical Chad Marshall near post run on a corner, gets away from Hedges. Hedges will be very disappointed in that. But yeah, those free kick goals where no one gets on it, it's hard to blame the keeper sometimes, right?
That's one of those ones that you don't expect to score and it just goes in. It's similar to, I think, Kumiento did it once in that first year. I remember YP Lee, that was supposed to be a cross, but it ended up being a goal. So yeah, it definitely does happen, and it's kind of it can really be demoralizing because you expect it to contact somebody that's going up for the header and it just misses everybody. And then this is where the fireworks happen near the end of the game, actually in injury time. I can't remember his name, the Peruvian, the one they just signed, Rio Riaz.
Raul Rui Diaz.
Rui Diaz. Okay, so he basically was going up against Reiger, I think his name is. It was a defender. And Ziegler, Reiger. Ziegler, he was going up against. He was basically in front of him. Ziegler was getting position on him on a throw in. Rio Diaz basically throws his head back into Ziegler's face, and then he goes down with like he got fouled. They give Ziegler the red card, and it was clear and obvious that Rio Diaz went back into him. I can't remember who the referee is. It was one of the ones that we always complain about. But the thing is, VAR doesn't even contact him, or he doesn't listen to VAR, and essentially doesn't even review it. Because if that's reviewed, I personally think that Ziegler doesn't get the red, and it actually goes to Rio Diaz because he's actually the one that made contact with the other person's head on purpose. It was very blatant.
Just before I comment on that, going back to the winning goal. The winning goal was very, very much just like Davide's goal against San Jose.
Yeah, San Jose. It was. Yeah. And I think that was a tying goal. I think at that point.
That was a 1-1 draw. I think you're right. And like for the keeper, like it's the kid there, Justin Gonzalez. It's hard for him to do anything, on that at all.
Yeah, but are you based on my description? Are you surprised that they didn't even review that?
I think it was Ted Uncle, right?
It was Ted Uncle. You're right. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just watching it right now, actually, but I haven't seen the replay. I just saw Ted Uncle give a red card.
Oh, okay. They might show it on the replay after the red card gets handed out. But
here they are. They're showing it. Hang on.
Oh, this is live reaction now. You're getting over the radio.
Yeah.
It's kind of blatant, isn't it? It's like he's swung his head back into Ziegler's face.
They cut it short.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to take my word for it because it was very clear and obvious that should have been reviewed, and even the commentators on the game said that what's the point of VAR if you're not going to review something like that? Because that, while it probably wouldn't have affected the game, they said that this is definitely going to be reviewed by the whatever committee they have, and it should definitely be reversed, and Ziegler should be available for next Saturday.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like, when you say review, you obviously mean by reviewed by the referee on the field.
Yes, it should have been. Yeah,
everything is reviewed. Like,
yeah,
there are people watching absolutely everything, and when there's a red card and it's questionable like that, there's no excuse for it not being, them calling the ref over to look at it. The only thing I can think of is the ref saying, or the ref refusing. And if the ref refuses, then there must be some kind of internal protocol for what happens if indeed he's proved to have gotten it wrong, right? So, yeah. I mean, again, we've talked about this lots in the last couple of months, but it's weird to see. Like, you look at the game, the Voyageurs Cup game midweek, where there is no VAR, and how much you want it. But you also look at how MLS has applied it compared to, at the World Cup, and you're just like, it's good to have, but there's also, like, if someone's going to screw it up, count on MLS to do it.
For sure. And obviously that win brought them within a point, I think, of the Whitecaps, if I'm not mistaken.
Seattle?
Yeah, Seattle. They're within a point now, and they have a game in hand. Like I said, I think the red card wasn't going to have effect on the standings or anything like that, but I think when you have VAR, you should review that, and it should have been reviewed on the field itself. But that's
You're right. It is the 1 point behind in a game in hand. It's so crazy tight, and from in the West, kind of 9 and up or 10 and up.
10 and up, yeah. I think all the teams are basically in it right now, and I personally think that at this point, based on really knee-jerk reactions, I think both Vancouver and Seattle are a good shout to actually make the playoffs instead of them actually competing with each other. I think there's other teams that are going to fall before. Dallas, I'll give you Dallas. They mentioned it on the thing that last year they lost at home, and then they lost in Seattle, and then they basically tanked. And this is the same thing that's happened. They lost at home last week, and now they lost in Seattle. And like I said, after the game, tons of pushing and shoving. They had to bring in, the security in order to. It was a really kerfuffle. Probably the biggest one of the weekend.
Because of some of the things that have happened in Dallas this year, and they like Kellen Acosta moving on, for example. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but the winger guy Cascadia.
Yes.
The guy who went to Turkey or whatever, right? Now that those things have happened, I can't see them collapsing again in the same way they have in previous years, but yeah, you never know.
Well, I don't think they won't collapse enough to make the playoffs, because I think they are far ahead up, but they are going to drop in the standings. I don't think they're going to finish first at all.
So, Steve, if you think the Flounders and the Whitecaps are going to make it, and they're in 7-8 right now, who do you see dropping out other than obviously Mike Pecky's Salt Lake?
I think RSL, and my bet would be, if I were to make a bet right now, and I don't bet usually, but if I were to bet, I bet LAFC. I think they are primed to miss if these top players aren't used to the travel and they get worn down, because they're playing a lot of games, those guys.
They have guys who played a bunch of World Cup games too.
Yeah,
they're tied on points with their neighbors, but they have a game in hand on them too.
Yeah, but like I said, you have to win those games. But that's enough of talk about the MLS West. We're going to come back and cover the BC Soccer Web headlines after these breaks.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Davies, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back. You're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show, broadcasting live from CITR Studios at the University of British Columbia. And now we come to part 5, where we talk about BC Soccer Web headlines. Headlines is brought to you by BC Soccer Web, your one-stop information site for all your headlines, and they all international, national, local, and they all come with links. You can also contribute to BC Soccer Web. If you see a news article, you can always send it. There is a link or a heading, whatever, on the site, and you can definitely do that. So, Zach, I know you've been on the road. Hopefully, you were able to read some of it, but we'll go over it and we'll see what we could talk about.
Yes, some good stuff to talk about today.
Yeah. First of all, a follow-up: 7 more African referees have been banned for 10 years to life. and then an additional 14 were provisionally suspended, and then they're going to look into that. It basically brings the total to 18 in the last month. That's a big amount. We were talking about before the documentary from Ghana that really exposed a lot of this stuff, and it seems like they're really going hard on some of these referees.
Yeah, which they should be, right? Like, this can't be happening. This tarnishes the game, not just in Ghana, not just in Africa, but in the world. And so, yeah, it needs to be dealt with. We know, we've talked about in the past, football's for sale in Ghana in a variety of ways. So it's good to hear that this is happening.
Another update, Parma, we talked about them, I think a couple weeks ago. They win, or maybe last week even. They won their points appeal. They will start Serie A on level terms. They were going to be deducted 5 points. Their fine remains at €20,000. The player involved, he sent a couple of former teammates who they were playing for promotion. They were playing against them. He kind of asked them by WhatsApp to kind of throw the game. He said it was in a joking way. He himself was banned for 2 years. He's had it reduced to 5 months, but his fine has increased to $30,000. It didn't mention in the article, and I couldn't look back to see how much the original fine was. I think it was a little bit. I think it was 20 or something like that.
I think it was 20. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's been increased to 30. So I think for Parma, it's a good news for the player. At least he's not missing 2 seasons. It's half a year. So and like I said, it seemed like it was in jest. It wasn't, demand to throw away the game. It was kind of in a joking way. So,
with this one, again, these things need to be taken seriously. However, remember from the original article, he was like, the joke was, take it easy on us in this next game. It was again.
That's right. Yeah. It wasn't asking you to throw away. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want match fixing, so you need to take it serious.
And I think Serie A is taking his, whenever they find out about this, because of the previous scandals, they definitely they're going to be a hard line stance on this.
So I'm happy. I'm happy Parma won't lose points, and even if this is totally innocent, unfortunately, Emmanuel Calideo, if I'm pronouncing that right, he's learned a hard lesson, and at least it's not 2 years, of his career gone.
Or next time, use the smiley emoji or sarcasm emoji or something. Maybe that'll help. Some news that we were going to discuss last week, but you were away. Because I really wanted your opinion on this. The Bayern Munich, I think he's the chairman, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Rummenigge. He's calling for the end to the 50+ rule to enable Bundesliga clubs to be more effective. He says that this rule basically effectively bars wealthy overseas investors from seizing control of the clubs to kind of make them more competitive. It is credited with keeping the ticket prices down and getting the stadiums full, giving Germany one of the best fan cultures in European football. But he says that it's making the German sides less competitive in winning European titles. There was a recent attempt to overturn the rule. It failed in March when the majority of the 36 Bundesliga and Bundesliga 2 clubs voted for retention of the system, approving a motion tabled by St. Pauli. What are your thoughts overall on this? Are you a big fan? I know you're a fan, you're a supporter of Bayern Munich, and obviously they're the ones the head person wants to abolish this. Do you want this to make yourself more competitive in Europe, or are you okay with the way it is right now?
Yeah, so Kali Rummenigge, I think his title is CEO.
Okay.
Anyways, I really appreciate him. He's contributed a lot. However, I don't always agree with, just like Uli Hoeneß, I don't always agree with some of the things he says or how he says them. One of the things you need to know, though, is whether it's kind of joking or whatever, he's actually said Bayern's okay to stay 50+1, but he thinks this will be good for the other teams. He's basically saying, look, the other teams are not pulling their weight when it comes to European competitions and the coefficient for Germany and for challenging for the title, right? The league and the cup domestically. I disagree with him. I think 50+1 is one of the things that makes Germany great, and they've shown that although they might not be able to have long long spells of dominating in European competitions, how things are set up right now for them and in the rest of the world, and the differences there, that they can still come out on top in the two European competitions. And so I'm very much a supporter of 50+1. I think it would be fought so hard in Germany if something like this if they were to change it. It's part of what, in Germany, these are not just sports teams like in North America. These are community groups. They're sport clubs, right? The way that people identify with them is not the same way that people identify with NHL teams or NFL teams or whatever. Like, this is your actual community, like where you're from, and as a member, you own the club. Right, I know in MLS and another team, CPL now and all these other places, they're using this language of membership, but you don't own it. You don't own anything, right? In Germany, you own, you're the supporters of it, the people who own the club, and so I think it's good in principle, and I think it's good or it can be good in practice, and I hope it will. I hope the tide of the other teams not doing so well in Europe can be turned other ways or can be changed other ways. This is not something. Even if they tried to change, it would not happen quickly. And the way that this would get changed probably is a challenge to the CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, and I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Okay, so let's get back to some North America now for some news. The city attorney of San Diego, their appeal has been denied. The November election, to see what the public thinks for a soccer stadium in San Diego, is going forward in November. This is nothing to do. This is a different ownership than what the USL side, the 1904 FC was. So they're going for this. And last week, I think, or the week before, Garber mentioned that San Diego was potentially part of that MLS expansion. So it's interesting to see there. And that may be the reason why 1904 didn't go through. Columbus Crew.
Did you look at the renderings in the article?
I did. It looks decent, actually.
Why are they doing these U's?
I don't know.
Make it a whole stadium.
Maybe they have a nice view on the other side. The Whitecaps were going to do that too to give the mountain view.
There's buildings on the other side.
Oh, is there? I can't remember. I think you're right, because I've seen there was actually another downtown stadium design that was revealed. Save the Crew unveiled a stadium design for downtown. They were quoted in the article saying, "We view this stadium design as a launch pad to start a conversation about a future home of Columbus Crew SC following the purchase out by local ownership." So they definitely have that going for them. I don't know how much Garber and PSV, which is the Precourt Sports Ventures, is going to listen to them. So we'll see. At least they have something tangible to go for in the downtown area.
And that one looks a little bit like a YouTube, but there's a small section on the one side, but
yeah, I agree with you. I don't know why it's not. I think there must be something that they have in their the architects or whatever that's saying that this is a better feeling for the stadium. I don't know. You're right. It does seem strange that everybody's going for that.
The Columbus one has some sort of roofing type thing over top of it.
Yeah,
or at least part of it is weird.
Austin, the MLS stadium has been delayed until next Wednesday. They were going to be set to vote on it. I believe it was Thursday. But there were 2 hours of public comments. There were apparently 20 amendments proposed to the agreement. And so the council decided to table it till Wednesday. There was harsh words by the Austin City mayor against the other council members who put these additional amendments in there, and he actually called them poison pills that could delay or kill the deal. So it's really weird that happened there, because there are some. One example was if Columbus moved again or something like that they would have to pay $1 million per year or something like that. And there were additional amendments in there too. So with the news of the Columbus Crew stadium design and this Austin stuff, maybe there is some hope at the end of the tunnel.
Let's hope so. That's it. So the vote this coming Wednesday.
That's what they say. It should be this Wednesday. We'll see definitely to see if it goes through. But again, we still have the Ohio State court thing that happened, and that maybe has something to do with it. That maybe that's another thorn in the MLS's side to move it. This could be where Austin just gets an expansion team, and Precourt gets it, and they has to sell to the Columbus to the local ownership, if there is local ownership out there. Getting news back to Canada. A couple of interesting things, and actually both of them from Manitoba. First of all, there was the first ever soccer festival was held for inner city kids in Winnipeg. This is by the Manitoba Soccer Association. They held this. Normally, apparently, they hold it other parts of this province, but this is the first time they held it for inner city kids, and they're trying to maybe they're getting on the Alfonso Davies bandwagon, where they're trying to identify kids that maybe don't have a chance to play soccer and see maybe they could find a diamond in the rough.
Manitoba, it's the Marco Bustos, Keon Stroh's craze.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Oh, yeah, you could give it to them too on that, I guess. Also, Valor FC, CPL news. Valor FC has announced that they're going to have their first girls soccer program. It's Elite Girls program for players from 14 to 17. It seems similar to what the Whitecaps do right now.
Yeah, good for them. We know the CPL has not, has not hid the fact that long term they do want to have a Canadian women's league. So these are the kind of things having these kinds of things in place will help that long term vision become realized one day.
And it brings more eyes to the team as well, because you're showing that you're not, like, although the league's not available, you're still training the young players to move on. And some of those players will go on to NCAA. And there was announced that 8 Canadians were named to the 2018 Mac Herman Trophy watch list. What this is, Mac Herman Trophy is the best player in the college in college soccer, NCAA, and they do a watch list at the beginning of the year, kind of to identify some of the MVPs or like the potential players. So then that way it kind of gives it like a preseason MVP watch, so people can watch these players. There were 8 Canadians named in total. 7 were women. A couple of names that people will recognize: Jessie Fleming, playing at UCLA; Deanne Rose, forward, playing at Florida State University. There's a couple other ones: Paige Culver, Kent State; Riley Foster and Bianca St. George at West Virginia; Victoria Pickett from University of Wisconsin; Evelyn Veens from University of South Florida. There was one male player put on the watch list: Alex Comcia, former residency player from Vancouver, BC. He's playing in North Carolina. When I looked at I saw his picture for the first time in a long time. I did not recognize him because he was I think he's maybe 5'10" when he was with the residency at 16, but he has put on a few inches. I think he's listed at 6 foot, and he looks like a decent center back there. So obviously great to see him. We remember at the residency games we always talked to his dad. His dad always came up to us, talked to us. So good to see that he's doing well in the NCAA.
He's a good kid, and you hope all the best for him. Whether it's and I know he had some connections over in Europe, and so whether that plays out after college or maybe he comes, goes through the American system with USL and MLS, or if he comes to the Canadian Premier League or whatever. But I hope he'll be able to continue his football career. And in terms of those women, I think I might have only seen the 2 Olympic medalists play before.
Yeah,
but it's just encouraging to see so many Canadians that are mentioned on as you said, this watch list, this keep an eye on list, because it puts eyeballs on these people, or eyeballs on these young players, and hopefully the added attention is a positive thing for them.
For sure. And I think obviously the Vancouver Whitecaps aren't going to hold their rights because he hasn't been with the residency program since the U16s. So he'll probably, if he does want to go to MLS, he'll probably go through the draft. But like you said, after he left the residency, he went to, I think it was France.
I think it was Nantes.
Was it? Yeah, it was. I can't remember which club it was, but it was somewhere in France where he was in their academy program. So interesting to see there. Good to see him. And it's definitely a positive for players from Vancouver to see them on some preseason watch list. Last story we have here. Canada Soccer introduces club licensing program. So you're going to have to walk me through this. Hopefully you know a little bit about this. It's essentially a program designed to raise the standards of soccer development across the country, kind of improve overall soccer system, and guide soccer organizations towards the best principles of development both on and off the field. Is this more like a kind of getting everybody on the same page, or is this I read the whole thing, but it was kind of confusing. It was very vague to me. Maybe because I was reading so many articles, and when I got to this one, it just didn't really click in. So, do you know about this, and what does this entail?
Yeah, basically, yeah, you put it in a good way there. Yeah, it's getting everyone on the same page. Like right now in this country, Steve, like let's say you and I wanted to start a football club, we could, and we could do it however we wanted to. What the CSA is trying to do is say, look, if you want to have a club that's, a part of the real structure of Canadian soccer in this country, there needs to be standards. There needs to be, and so that's what they're doing. The last couple of weeks, I spent a lot of time on the ground painting, and I got to listen to I didn't even know what podcast it was, but it was Jason DeVos, and he was talking about all the stuff he's been doing in his time at the CSA, and this is one of them. And so this is partly because of Jason DeVos and his role with the CSA, and so it's good to see some of these kinds of things beginning to happen, right? Because we do need to standardize some things, and this is one of them. And so good for Jason and whoever else is involved in making this happen. And hopefully this isn't just hopefully this is not viewed as causing problems for existing clubs or whatever. Hopefully they can realize the long-term value of this.
Yeah, so that was Headlines, brought to you by BC Soccer Web. You can catch everything there for links to national, international, and local news and headlines.
You can also see good pictures of our tifo from
for sure, yeah, and that was a nice one. Even though I think there was somebody complaining on Twitter, I don't think you should have even responded to this guy. He is a talented guy, though. I saw his website. He's got pretty good. He's apparently a director. He's an animator. But yeah, he wasn't very happy about it, and a lot of you guys went after him too.
I don't know what you mean by went after.
Well, no, not went after. But there was little snide comments about him, and you tagged him into every comment. So it was he definitely, and he responded to a lot of them too. He wasn't very happy at all. I think he wished harm on somebody too, if I'm not mistaken. But that's enough of that. Before we wrap up, did you have any other thoughts on the Whitecaps and going forward into the season? I know we quickly rehashed the Portland game, but obviously the TFC game coming up, the second leg.
Yeah, I heard a little bit of the discussion from Nicholas and Joe Deasy earlier, and a little bit from you and Michael as well. I'm so excited for Wednesday. Wednesday, do whatever you can to get off work early or whatever and watch the game at 4:00, whether you're stuck in your office building or you're at a pub or at home or with friends, whatever. Or you're on vacation somewhere,
Which I will be at vacation.
You're gonna be on vacation. So
I'll be in Okanagan. So I might be actually, because it'd be all smoky and everything, I might be indoors most of the day anyways.
TSN Go, man.
Yeah.
TSN Go. Well, watch this. This is going to be memorable. It's going to be memorable because either Vancouver is going to win the Voyageurs Cup for the second time ever, or something like last Wednesday is going to happen and they're not.
Yeah. It's always memorable. Even if the win or lose, it's always memorable when the Whitecaps are in the finals.
I just wish I could be in the ground for this. It's going to be, it's going to be exciting.
So, talking about the guys, I just want to plug them. First of all, obviously their show comes on Wednesday. Like they said, they're not sure if they're going to have a show this week. They're going to definitely try because of the game and everything. But if you want to reach them on Twitter, you got Nicholas. You can find him at Space Age Robot 56, and Joe is at Joe DZ Van. Zach, where can we find you at?
It's at Zachary AM on Twitter, and I'm part of the Moving Curva Collective.
And you can find Michael at AFTN Canada. You can find all his stuff on AFTN.ca. A lot of articles, a lot of pictures, especially that went up from last Wednesday. Really good ones. You can find me, Steve, at Whitecaps Beat on Twitter. So I think that's it. We'll wrap it up. Went a little bit over as usual, but it's hard to coordinate this stuff when you're doing it over the phone and not in person. So in the meantime and in between time, that's another episode of the AFTN Soccer Show. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.